Former Cats defenseman Brandon Montour. He's telling, you know what, I'm not on the team anymore. I've gone on to not greener pastures, but different pastures. And I'll spill a little bit of the tea on what happened right after they won the cup. He was on the Missing Curfew podcast, Shane O'Brien, Scotty Upstall, and he provided some insight into the team's big-time celebrations that very first night. He says, now that I look back, the parade was insane. And Vlad, that parade was insane. Did I tell you I talked to some people that were out there that weren't affiliated with the station? They said fights were breaking out at like bars in the streets.
Nice.
One guy told me there was a guy running around with just shorts on, asking other people to pour beers on him. And at one point, 10 different people at the same time were pouring beer on him. And the guy that I was talking to was like, I wasn't so much thinking about the dude getting the beers poured on him. Who's buying a beer and pouring it out? Like literally just kind of wasting it nonetheless. He said, but the partying in the locker room it went on until, well, he said he got home at 5:30 a.m.
Wait, they were partying in the locker room that long? Mind you, here's the thing.
Okay.
Robert Grieper and I, we were covering the Game 7 post. So we went by the ice. So everybody did the post game on the ice. I thought they were going to celebrate. I didn't bring goggles for nothing. So I tried to get in the locker room. They were not allowing anybody in the locker room. But we saw a couple of players leaving, whatever, having to exit the room for whatever, right? And you could tell they were partying, and it just reeked of champagne and beer. So this was like around 1:30, 1:45-ish, maybe. So,
well, Brandon Montour said he didn't get home until 5:30 a.m. And he adds, and I might have been one of the early ones to leave. So he left at like 5 a.m. and still was one of the earliest to leave. He said the scene in the locker room was a beautiful, sloppy mess. All the players were there. Some still in their hockey gear. Some dudes like me, no time to take off your gear. Let's just party. You know Matthew Tkachuk was in his gear.
Matthew Tkachuk got a shout out last night. No, actually, not even Matthew Tkachuk. The Florida Panthers did. From CM Punk. And Money in the Bank. They had WWE had a PLE in Toronto, and CM Punk, who's a big hockey fan, gave the Florida Panthers their props. Even though obviously Canada's not big Panthers fans right now. Yeah. What a country! Even one of their teams, even if it's not their rightful team, just because it's a team from the country, they hated everything about the Panthers. So yeah. So Montour, huh?
Man, he continues to go on. Guys are in there, some still partying in their gear. Like I said, sometimes you don't have time to take off your gear. Their families were there, coaching staff, their families, trainers, medical staff, PR staff. That must have been fun. All enjoying the mix of, get this, music, cigar smoke, champagne, beer, and the indescribable smell of a hockey locker room.
I tell you, I've always told you, guys, if you listen to the show, I tell you the smell of this is no worse smell of a locker room than a hockey smell.
I can agree that.
Right. You've been there.
You're under a lot of padding, too.
A lot of sweaty pads. Pause.
So he continues on. The puddle on the ground was above and then he just paused. It started to laugh.
Above his what?
I don't know how high, but this is all in the locker room.
Yeah. Above what?
He just started laughing and did not finish the statement, then went on to say, I had my gear on until 4 a.m. Families, friends, kids were in the locker room with cigars they were smoking. So it was a debaucherous scene, but it was also a family debaucherous scene. This is all just
Caligula. What? I don't know, man. I just want to know how deep that puddle went.
Well, listen, this might give you some insight into it. Montour said that there were over 160 champagne bottles that were opened in the room afterwards.
And all 160 were used.
Oh, well, more than I'm sure is underestimating. I think the moment when all the boys were in the locker room with just each other and the family and friends, I think was one memory that we're all going to hold on to for sure.
See, shout out to the Panthers. Now, listen, I would have loved to have been in that celebration, but I don't know if this is how hockey does it or if this is what the Panthers did, but it was that moment they did for the fans. They were on the ice. They had the celebration for the fans so that the fans could share this excitement with them. But it was great that they had their own moment inside the locker room with them, with their family and the friends and those that the sacrifice that had to be done by both sides that they were able to celebrate and enjoy that moment. That's dope. I like that.
So what we're gathering now is that it was a very debaucherous, champagne, beer-soaked, cigar-smoked, huddled up man's locker room with family, friends, staff. And it looks like the party just continued on until Matthew Tkachuk and those guys decided to take it to the elbow room because, like we said, Brandon Montour said he had his gear on till 4 o'clock in the morning. And then, of course, he made it out to his house at 5:30. What time did Matthew Tkachuk and those guys get to the elbow room? 8, 9 o'clock?
Yeah, 8 in the yeah, like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning.
So that makes sense. And he says he's one of the earlier ones to leave. So that sounds like he left around 5 o'clock. So if he was early to leave, that means 7.
I truly think the Panthers never stopped celebrating, and they called because I talked to the security at the
No, that's exactly what he's saying
right
there.
that they called the ER elbow room, folks, elbow room. Well, elbow room's been getting a lot of love from the station and
from everybody.
us,
That's
man.
on TV.
Shout out to everybody at the ER. I
would-
think they
I
called
would-
the
I would
ER.
say, how about a couple free beers, but they don't need us.
You know, yeah. They called the elbow room right before they when they were cleaning up after the celebration of them winning the championship and the patrons that were there, and they let them know that they were coming by very early in the morning just to have things ready, and they were ready when the Panthers arrived, and apparently they arrived like around 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning.
Perfect sense. That's what happened. They partied
Right.
in the locker room until finally there was no more partying.
Probably like till 6:37. Probably got home, changed, maybe ate a little something, drank a little water, and then went back celebrating again.
I don't know if all that happened, Vlad. I think it was they partied till about 7:30 and said, "Oh man, they're out of champagne and beer, and the kids got to go home. I ain't going home. Let's go to the ER." Kind of cleaned up, maybe toweled off a little bit, got some clean towels, toweled off a little bit.
Nah, they were on a natural high, bro. I mean, when you win like that, after playing a grueling 2.5-hour game and then celebrating for 7 hours and then continue celebrating, it's just a natural high.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think they went home, though, some of those guys. I think they went from the locker room straight to the elbow room. From the locker room to the elbow room, we celebrate our Stanley Cup championships. That is a t-shirt I want.